All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everybody, and welcome to our Bamboo SPX Services SharePoint Health Check. My name's Matt. I'll be your guide together today. I'm a sales engineer here at Bamboo Solutions, and I'd like to thank everybody for a little bit of their time this afternoon. I know we all have busy schedules, so I do appreciate you being able to take a little bit of time to spend it with me today. Just a little friendly reminder, one of my account managers will be reaching out to each one of you in the next 24 hours or so, just in case you have any questions of what you saw today. So please keep a lookout for that. A little piece of housekeeping. For those of you new to GoToWebinar or just need a refresher, if you look at your desktop at the GoToWebinar application and look at the orange highlighted box for me, that'll be your question area. Due to call quality, I do have to keep everybody into listen only or mute mode. But if you do need to ask a question of me, please feel free to do so at any time. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions, either during our time together in the presentation, or I'll hang on afterwards as well. So whatever is okay with you guys is what I'll go ahead and do. Who are we? We are Bamboo Solutions. We are a leading provider of SharePoint products and SharePoint collaborative solutions. We are located out of Reston, Virginia in our headquarters. That's where I am talking to you from today. We're about half an hour outside of the nation's capital. So what I'd like to do as we start is to get a few questions going in your mind that you have throughout today's presentation. Keep thought of them. Try to refer to them in your mind as we go, just in case things pop up as we go along and you see our presentation today. So I want you to ask yourselves, are you experiencing any slowness or downtime in your SharePoint environment? I want you to think about whether or not you're having the same problem over and over again. Are you getting all that you want out of your SharePoint environment and SharePoint experience? And then, is there any future plans to migrate to the cloud? So that's what I really want you all to focus on with me today as we proceed together through our SharePoint health check. Before we actually start, I want to give a little disclaimer, if you will. For those of you who have gone through our product webinars before, this will be a little bit different today. The SharePoint health check that we do provide is a service for you. It involves discovery, aggregation, and our knowledge and our recommendations. I know in the past our webinars go through a tutorial of a product. Today we'll be going through some examples of different issues that do come up in your SharePoint environment, and then we're going to show some reporting and recommendations and things that we do inside the health check to help alleviate the pain points that you do have inside of your SharePoint environment. So that's just a little disclaimer at the top. I bet if you've been on one of those before, you have heard my voice do them. So it will be a little bit different format, so just bear with me, and hope you guys enjoy. So why a SharePoint health check? Well, a SharePoint health check, from our standpoint, is the ability to identify causes, issues, and your concerns with your environment. And then what we do is we provide a custom report with recommendations to help better optimize or overcome the issues that you're currently receiving. So that's just a little overview of what a SharePoint health check is. So what we're going to do is go ahead and drill into your environment. We're going to figure out the root cause of your issues. We're going to come up with ways to help overcome those issues. We're going to, in the process, hopefully improve overall performance of your SharePoint environment. And then with all that, we're going to receive a sense of reliability and peace of mind, because we know that now the due diligence has been done inside of the SharePoint environment that you all access, and it is at the most healthy state we could get it at the present moment. And hopefully also in the future we can build it out so going forward there'll be growth as well. So what will we discover and document? We'll figure out the current status and health of the farm. We'll go ahead and aggregate your log files, ULES logs, ISS logs, IIS logs. We're going to look at the security and permissions, who has access to what, when they have access to it. And then we're also going to look at the SharePoint architecture, how the servers talk to each other, how many servers do you have, what's their configuration, all of those things. Just to list a few. And then how are we going to help with that? We're going to provide you at the end of our data discovery. We're going to provide you with a detailed report that includes recommendations and remediations based upon our years of knowledge, as well as what Microsoft does recommend. And then we'll provide an executive summary, which I will talk about further into our presentation today. And just a little bit of housekeeping as well. Our presentation today will be about maybe 30 minutes of me actually just talking to you. Then at the end, we left it open, so if you do have more questions, I can answer them for you. So what we're going to start off with are just some common issues that you might be experiencing right now in your SharePoint farm, whether it be performance and general sluggishness, if pages take too long to load, things of that nature. Data storage and disk allocation might be an attributor to that, and might be an issue that you're having is you can't seem to get ahead of the storage that you're putting into the database. Large lists and libraries, we'll talk about that today as well. Out-of-date site collections, underutilized site collections, underutilized data will all be talked about. Then we're going to go into a little bit of a use case. A lot of times it is brought to our attention that there's problems with alerts. So we're going to actually go ahead, talk about some alerting problems, what we could actually look at, what we can actually deduce inside of the farm, and actually take a look to see if we can't get those alerts to fire off again. And then just other issues that we might be experiencing are issues with third-party products or just general unexpected one-off behavior that is causing concern. So you might be asking yourself, as I do from time to time, why is my SharePoint so slow? And a few of the common issues are just hardware and software configurations. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than a RAM or a processor adjustment or a disk space issue that we could maybe overcome. Other than that, there's usage. There might be peak hours where there's more traffic than others. There might be an overload on one server or another. So again, those are just common issues for slowness that we can deduce and overcome with you. Other types of issues that can cause slowness are a little more detailed and refined, one of which is load and usage distribution. There could be an improper load across your SharePoint app pools and your servers, which is causing inadequate resources to be delivered for a performance perspective. Other than that, we could have timer jobs, maintenance tasks, backups, all being run at the same time on the same disks, which again is going to hinder performance and then hinder the overall experience. And then from that, we could also have slow disks or even an inadequate RAM allocation for what we're trying to accomplish. So again, all of that are things that could move to the performance not being completely up to what we're looking for. We could also have improper architecture. What we want to do is, as you grow, as your company grows, we want to be able to have your SharePoint environment, your SharePoint experience grow with you. So we're going to also look into some architecture with you if slowness and performance is deemed to be one of your major pain points. Also, if your end users are reporting any slowness when they're browsing through your SharePoint through a web browser, we can also take a look to see if caching is set up. We can have caching turned on so that every subsequent time a end user joins your SharePoint web page, views it, it'll go a little bit faster. However, this does put a little bit more strain on your RAM of your web front-end server, so we do have to balance that. As well, in storage, as well with performance, storage can be a problem. When you have unstructured data in your SQL database, that can lead to a larger strain on your server resources and then have an impact on the overall performance of your SharePoint environment. And again, unstructured data is anything from a PDF, a Word document, even the PowerPoint presentation you're seeing today are all unsecured data. Also, large files can exacerbate the database storage issues in the unstructured data. There are ways to go ahead and limit what we can put into SharePoint. We can restrict what the end user is allowed to do. We do have a space inside of all of our central administration areas that does allow for us to specify the maximum upload size. So if we are having a problem with certain people abusing their privileges to upload, we can restrict that out for you and talk about that with you. Also, when it comes to performance, a lot of the main complaints come from searching. Depending on how large your data storage area is, it could lend itself to having lengthy crawl and indexing times. So that means you might be getting incorrect searches or just slow searches altogether because the crawl timer job hasn't been able to process itself. So we do have that problem that we can go and bring to the surface if we do need to during a SharePoint health check. Another thing that can help or that can hinder your performance from a storage perspective is having out-of-date, unused, or seldom used content. You could have out-of-date files. You could have dead files, a file that doesn't have a author or has a author that's been disabled inside of your SharePoint user profile. So those we would like to bring to the surface. We would like to discuss why they're there, if we can get rid of them, if they're not needed anymore. We would like to go ahead and take a look at that. Also, there could be an issue with having multiple site collections, having unused site collections or little used site collections. You could have in your environment a site collection used by one person for their own endeavors when a simple site could solve that issue. And again, this would then reduce strain on what is actually being done inside of a performance management standpoint of your server farm. And again, we'll discuss all of this as we go with what we're able to discover and disseminate out to you from our reporting in our SharePoint health check. And again, if anybody does have any questions as we go along, please feel free to ask them of me. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Or again, at the end, I'll block off some time with y'all. Also, single server and multiple server farms both lead to pros and cons in your SharePoint environment and structure. From a single server, there is less maintenance, less support, which then ultimately means less cost. But there are issues with downtime, growth that we talked about earlier, as well as performance, which the main part of this has been about so far. So even though it does have its pros, it does lead itself to some very large cons. And then we have our multiple servers, and for there we can have scalability, we can do better load balancing to make sure there's more uptime, there's more pace in your SharePoint life. But then we're going to have more maintenance, more dependencies on how servers talk to each other. And then unfortunately there will be a cost aspect for that as well, from initial cost and maintaining cost as well. So again, with multiple and single server farms, they both have their pros, they both have their cons. It's just what we're able to stomach as each individual organization. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and switch gears ever so slightly and actually talk about a use case that we've come across, and it has to do with people not receiving their alerts in a SharePoint environment, and just what we could do to uncover to alleviate that. So we are going to move a little bit from the performance aspect down this road. What we could do is first see if the outgoing SMTP server is configured, if it actually is spinning out information, if that server that is listed is up and running, if we can actually contact it outside of SharePoint. Those are all things that we can go ahead and check from a outgoing email perspective to see if what we have set up in SharePoint could actually do its job as intended. And what we want to be able to do with this use case is be able to utilize SharePoint and one of its main draws, which is the ability to alert off of items changes without having to go and speak to another person saying it's been updated. SharePoint allows for that non-human intervention to occur, and we want to make sure that does occur as intended. After outgoing email, we can always look at the timer jobs. We can go ahead and see if there's any stuck or non-responsive timer jobs for alerting, or really anything at all, but for this practice it would be for alerting. So you go ahead, find the timer job, see when the last time it ran was, and see when it's scheduled to run, to see if it is doing what it should be doing. We could have a misconfigured SharePoint user profile, and that's why the alerts aren't actually disseminating the way they should. In your SharePoint user profile, you should have a configured SIP address for all users. This will actually be where the emails get sent for that logged in user. So SharePoint actually has the knowledge of what to do when you do click that little alert me button at the top of your screen. SharePoint isn't magic as much as we would like it to be. We do have to provide it information now and again, and this is one of those pieces of information that we would have to give it. And another issue that might be happening with the alerts in this case would be that there is a restriction on whether or not alert can be created at all, or if the number of alerts has reached its limit. In Central Admin, the administrators can go ahead and turn on and off the alert service if they so choose to, and they can also restrict the number of alerts a user can create. Because again, every time an alert is created, there is strain on the back end of the servers. So for those reasons, we have seen in the past that admins have restricted that number. And maybe unbeknownst to you all, or a former employee has done that, and then we can hopefully shed some light on that with you. So after that little use case there of how an alert cannot function, and then what we can do to take a look at what's actually going on, provide some feedback, some tips and tricks, how will a SharePoint health check help? So what we're going to do is we're going to give you some hardware and software recommendations based upon the best practices Microsoft sets forth. We're going to provide you some reports based upon your key concerns and issues, and then some recommendations based upon what we do discover in those reports. And then we're going to provide you with an executive summary, which is a summary of high-level concerns that you do all have, as well as some information that we do provide standard as well in our SharePoint health check. So Microsoft does have some hardware recommendations from a 2013 and 2016 perspective, whether it be processor settings, RAM settings, or hard disk requirements. And we can also go ahead, let me wait for that to change. We can also go ahead and pinpoint those key areas. We have our memory that we do have, or our RAM. We have our processor, its speed, the number of cores that it has. We have how fast it's actually clocking. And then from a storage perspective, we'll have how big is the disk and how much free space of the disk there is. All that we can discover inside of our reports for you. Same thing with software. What we're going to go ahead is be able to pinpoint the operating system that you have, as well as we can figure out what updates have been made and what patches have been made as well. And I'll show that a little bit later on. We can also report on concerns that you might have. And again, there's a list here that I've come up with to disseminate with you guys. We're not limited to what you see today. This is just some common issues that I felt we needed to bring to light and talk about. But again, please don't think you're limited to what you see today. If you do want to see something that's not here, please ask it of me, and I'll let you know what we can do for you as it comes from a reporting and health check perspective. So what we have here is our timer jobs. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier when it came to alerting. Here we can actually go ahead, document every one of your timer jobs, figure out when the last time it ran, and then figure out based on that with its recurring schedule if it feels like it's on time or if it feels like it's stuck. Also, from this area, we'd like to take a look at the recurring schedule and when things are scheduled for. If we notice that a lot of things are happening at the same time, like on this one, there's a lot of things happening between the 22 and 2300 hour block. That might cause some slowness if that was during a peak time of your usage of the day. Since that is done more of a nighttime activity, as long as it feels like it's getting done by, again, peak usage time, that could not be an issue. But it is, again, something we like to look at because maybe having all of those timer jobs hitting at the same time is causing a waterfall effect and making an issue somewhere down the line. So again, always something to take a look at when it comes to your SharePoint environment and performance is when and where those timer jobs are happening. And again, when I say where, they could be happening on different servers as well. From SQL, we are able to go ahead and look at your SQL database, look at the properties of it. We're also able to go ahead and look at database size growth in a given period of time. We can see if logs are growing as well as disk usage, how much storage is being used, in what areas, and how is it being allocated. So all things we can do from a SQL database perspective to give you guys a little bit clearer picture of what's going on in the SharePoint environment, then hopefully giving a little bit of peace of mind as well, that everything is working as intended. I mentioned earlier, when we look at our software, we can also look at patches. We'll get a list of Microsoft updates and patches in our reporting. And then we'll figure out what needs to be done if it is following the most recent build that Microsoft has put out for SharePoint. We'll also have our SharePoint Health Analyzer. It's reporting on SharePoint's out-of-the-box Health Analyzer. But with us, you're going to be given ideas, recommendations on what actually SharePoint is trying to tell you and what is the best way to overcome it. SharePoint out of the box just gives you an error. What we want to do is help you with that error to try to make it more digestible instead of just a string and a hyperlink. We would like to be able to bring it to the surface and then help you alleviate what is happening that is causing that error. Also, we can report on backups when they're happening, where they're being backed up to. If you notice on this little report screenshot, there is no backup location. The backups never ran. That's not terribly a good thing. So we could bring that to the surface and then make recommendations based on that. We also have site and site collection usage, where we can go ahead and show a structure of the site collections. We can show the number of unique visitors that each site collection uses, so we can see, again, if there is a underutilized or not used at all site collection that's taking up space in the farm. We can see a list of visitors, so we can see if it's the same people going in over and over again. So if we have a site collection that's only being mitigated by one person, we can go ahead and bring that to light and see if there's a way we can better reorganize that information. We can have content usage, take reports on that, as well as for dead documents that we talked about earlier, documents without an author. We can go ahead and figure out what those documents are actually doing, assign them an author, or maybe even remove them altogether if we deem that necessary. But everything we can go over with you. And again, those are just some common issues that we can port off of. Not all of them, so don't feel restricted to what you saw there. And those are just some examples that I like to put in for you all. Then we go to our executive summary. This will be our findings and then requested action items of us, some of which might be how backups are running, what are they actually backing up, user profiles, how are they configured, is everything going on all right inside of those, permissions, do people have permissions to what they're supposed to be having, do some people have excessive permissions that they really shouldn't be, so we can bring that to the surface. Load testing, usage reports, and then health analytics to see what the shape of your farm is. Just again, so you have peace of mind and can sleep at night, because SharePoint keeps us all up at night. Also in the executive summary, you'll receive a farm overview. It'll be the servers in the farm, some processor information, and your disk size, space, and available space. All will come in the executive summary. And then you'll have your farm topology as well, or your architecture that we talked about earlier. So we can see how servers are talking to each other inside of your SharePoint farm. As mine's just a single server that I have here for you that I took the caption of. We'll see a better hierarchy if we do have a multiple server farm. So those are all things that we can report on from our SharePoint health check. But again, not limited to, but just some things that we are able to discover with you all, help you through, help remediate, and hopefully help have a better product for both you and your end users. Because SharePoint experience isn't worth having if it's not going to end well. So, with that, I'd like to talk about our My SharePoint Experts monthly subscription program that does lend itself nicely to the SharePoint health check. It provides all the benefits of a SharePoint admin and SQL technician and the peace of mind that come with that without the overhead that comes with that. So what it is, it's a monthly subscription that's based on a quarterly or yearly commitment. You can have a number of hours with us, whether it be training, support, administration, or we can run this health check for you multiple times and then see the changes of the health check as we go along, as we improve the entire status of the farm. So again, just something to be aware of another service that we do provide when it comes to farm management and overall health of your SharePoint farm. Other services that we do have from our product side is we do help with installation, migration, and we do offer training services for you. We do have other webinars and workshops. I bet some of you have seen them before, and again, I've heard my voice before, and I thank you for joining me a second time around. So with all that, we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap up the presentation portion of the SharePoint Health Check and go ahead and open the floor to questions. If you have any of me, please do so in the question field, and I'll be more than happy to hang on here all the way up until the end of the hour if questions keep on flowing in about what you've seen today, what we can help with you. If there are certain questions or use cases that you do have, I can go ahead and help bring those to light for you. So anything like that, I'll be more than happy to sit around, help you all with. If not, I would like to thank everybody for spending, looks like 35 minutes or so with me today. It is a little shorter than our normal webinar, so I do like to thank you for that. If you do have any questions right now and you'd like to visit our webpage, please feel free to do so. Or if you'd like to contact sales and email me personally, please ask for Matt. They'll be more than happy to direct something my way. They know who I am, unfortunately. So, everybody, I'd like to thank you one more time. I'll hang on for questions for the foreseeable future. And thank you again. I hope you enjoyed what you saw today. It's a little bit different from our normal products, so we're hoping you enjoy it. Thank you very much.